Today's video is brought to you by Ekster, the world's largest smart wallet brand. With a ton of people traveling to Austin, Texas this week for Tesla's Cyber Rodeo, there's been a lot of discussion between me and my Patreon patrons about which mapping solution is best for taking your Tesla on a super long road trip. Let's take a look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. I'm going to compare three different solutions today. One is Google Maps using search along route for superchargers. The second one, of course, is Tesla's built-in mapping system, which actually depends on Google Maps as far as I understand it. And the third is a better route planner, or ABRP, which is an app that you can download onto your Android or iPhone. All right, so I'm going to use my basic area, which is Bogart, Georgia, to Austin, Texas. I just put in the center of town. You'll notice that the distances on these things are off by a couple of miles, but that's just because of the starting and ending points exactly. It doesn't really matter. We're looking at close to a 1,000-mile or 1,600-kilometer road trip, so it's a big road trip. Okay, so obviously we are starting with Google Maps here. It obviously does what it does. It maps out the best path to get there. This is the route, of course, that every one of the different options has chosen as the fastest route. It takes Interstate 20 for most of the trip and then tails off and goes down to Austin. So with Google Maps, you kind of have to pre-plan a little bit, which is why I'm showing you the desktop app. The other ones are going to be screen grabs of the applications themselves because it's a little bit difficult to show the phone app or the Tesla screen while talking here. It doesn't really matter. I mean, the information is there, so I'll show it. But anyway, so on Google Maps, you pretty much have to think about this before you leave, and it's a road trip, right? It's a 1,000-mile road trip, so you're probably going to think about this before you leave. So what you do is you bring up Google Maps on your web browser, click on More after you've got your basic directions in here. And then in the search box, type in Tesla Superchargers, hit return, and give it a minute here. Thinks about it. Okay, so you can see a whole bunch of superchargers on the way. You can also, of course, zoom in because it doesn't look like there's any here, but if you say search this area, you will see that there is a whole bunch of superchargers and destination chargers and other things like that. So anyway, let's just take a look at Ridgeland here. You can see that it's got a 4.6 out of 5 rating. So this is a big advantage of Google Maps, is that you actually get ratings and you actually have human beings that tell you what the amenities are and things like that. You can also check to see that it's open 24 hours. If you click on it, you can get information here. It says it's open 24 hours. It's only an 8-stall 120 kilowatt charger. So this might be one that you might want to avoid if you can, but it also might be difficult to do that because there's not as many superchargers going this direction as there are on the East Coast or the West Coast, for example. Of course, by clicking the 63 reviews, you can actually bring up a text thing. You can see what people have to say, lots of places to visit and things to do while charging, right? So these are important things. Safety can be one thing, like how close is it to populated areas? Because some of these can be a little sketchy. They can be out in the middle of nowhere or something like that. You also might want to check about food options, whether it's just fast food, whether there's walkable places, how close are the restrooms, things like that. So this is really, really great, and it's easy to pre-plan. The complicated part about this, if we go back and you look, is that you can see that it says 15 hours and 4 minutes to make this drive, but that is not including the charging times. So I don't really consider this a one-size-fits-all solution to the road trip thing. I think of this more as kind of a research thing that you do beforehand to try to figure out which stops you really want to take, and then you can use another solution while you're actually driving. Some people actually love Google Maps and they actually use it for the entire route planning, but I don't find it to work that well for me. So anyway, your mileage may vary, haha, get it? But I would suggest at least looking at Google Maps prior to leaving to get an idea of what are the best potential superchargers along the way. And of course, you can see on Google Maps, it says 15 hours and 4 minutes to get from Bogart to Austin. Speaking of super cool technology, I am super happy to talk about the Ekster Smart Wallet today. It is a beautiful premium leather wallet in a whole bunch of different colors. You can see here that it actually comes with a tracking device and its own little pocket to put it in. If you push the button on your app on your phone, it will ring on your wallet, and you can double click the tracker and find your phone too. So you can find your wallet and you can find your phone at all times. Very, very cool. In addition, and the coolest feature is you push the button and out pop your cards in order. It's really, really awesome. No more fumbling with your cards. You can just pick the one that you want right out of the list. You also have access to a money clip and room for a couple of other cards on the other side of the wallet fold out. It's great for organizing your daily life and slimming down what you carry around with you every day. The tracker, by the way, is solar powered. A couple of hours of sunlight will charge it up for about 3 months. And here's a cool little bonus. You can actually take selfies on your phone with the Ekster tracker. How cool is that? Check out the link in the description by April 12th and get 20% off an Ekster wallet, a tracker, or anything else you order on Ekster. All right, the second option obviously is Tesla's mapping system. You can see that you just put in the destination. It tells you exactly where you need to stop, how long you're going to need to stop, and it takes care of everything. It'll tell you when it's time to leave again, so there's a lot of really good stuff. It also tells you what your battery percentage is when you get there. Apologies for the not fantastic screen grab, but that's the way life goes. For some reason, the screen and my phone in landscape mode don't really play well together, so you get little moire distortion patterns. Some immediate downsides to this Tesla thing. Number one, you don't really get options. It doesn't say like, hey, do you want to stop at different things, or do you want to favor more charging stops for less actual time on the road? And then of course, it doesn't actually give you times ahead of time. It says when you arrive, but then you have to subtract. So basically you look at this and you're like, okay, that's 17 hours and 55 minutes if I add up everything. And I believe that's not including the time change that actually happens. So I think the idea would be we would get in at 1:32 a.m. East Coast time, and in Central time, it would be 12:32 a.m. I think that's how it works because that's what lines up the best with everything else. But anyway, it is very annoying that it doesn't give you like, 15 hours of driving and 3 hours of charging. And actually, let's see, I wrote it down. I had to calculate it myself. It's 17 hours and 55 minutes total time, 2 hours and 55 minutes of charging. So that means exactly 15 hours of driving. And that lines up pretty well with Google Maps, which is not surprising because I believe, again, that Tesla is using Google Maps at its base. So it's going to say 15 hours of driving time, and then it's going to add the approximately 3 hours of charging time. And I managed to squeeze in, there's 6 charging stops you can see along the way. So you can see 25 minutes in Oxford, Alabama, and then Cottondale is 40 minutes, Pearl, Mississippi, 25, Monroe, Louisiana, 40 minutes, Natchitoches, Texas, I think that's how you pronounce it, 20 minutes. And then if we check back up here, so you can see the Centerville one, that's 25 minutes. So it gives you the stopping times, and it does tell you that, it's 2 hours and 36 minutes to the next supercharging stop. It's just kind of annoying that it doesn't tell you the whole amount of time for the entire route, and you have to calculate it in your head. So that is a little bit annoying. The bigger problem with all of this is it's kind of an Appleized solution. Apple's always like, we know best what you want, and so we're going to provide it for you. And here you have Tesla saying, we know best what you need, and so we're going to just tell you which things to stop at and not really give you the options. Now, of course, what you can do is if you preview all of this stuff with Google Maps, you can then say like, oh, what I really want to do is stop at this other stop in Alabama that's near this stop, and I'm going to figure out the timing. But that means that you kind of have to override Tesla's main navigation system, and you have to utilize this, and you have to kind of, reroute yourself. And so that makes it a little complex to do all of this kind of thing. And then finally, we get a better route planner, which actually, look at this. It's so nice. It says it's 15 hours and 47 minutes of driving time, 2 hours and 4 minutes of charging time, and 7 charges. Interestingly enough, I don't know what mapping system they're using because it's almost the same number of miles, but they've got an extra 45 minutes of driving time in here past what Google Maps says. So I don't know what mapping system it's using, and maybe it's using Bing, or maybe it's using something else, TomTom, I don't know. But anyway, it definitely has something where it's added 45 minutes of driving time. So while the 17 hours and 52 minutes looks almost exactly the same as the Tesla version, if we actually compare apples to apples and use Google Maps for the determination of how fast we're going to get there, we could shave 45 minutes off of this, and we're looking at closer to 17 hours instead of 18 hours. So this could actually save us quite a bit. The trade-off, of course, is that you're doing 7 charges, but instead of 2 hours and 55 minutes of charging, you're only doing 2 hours and 4 minutes of charging. Now, how does this work? A better route planner actually figures out the fastest way to go, which means it looks at the fastest superchargers along the route, and it also takes account of trying to drain your battery to the most extent that it can so that it will charge the fastest, because when your battery is at around 10%, it charges really, really fast. If it's above 50%, it starts to slow down very, very quickly. So you can see, for example, here that the first stop in Oxford, Alabama, it's only charging to 59%, whereas Tesla would charge up to 70-something%. I forgot to look exactly, but it's about 70-something%. So that extra 10% may not seem like that much, but that's 10% above 50% charge on the battery, which means it's a whole lot slower than charging up from like 10% to 50%. So what a better route planner is doing is it's trading off more stops. So you're adding one more stop to this trip, but each one of the stops only charges the battery up to like 60% or something instead of 70 or 80%, which means that you ultimately save time because the battery is charging so much faster. The other nice thing about a better route planner is you can go into this and you can muck around with it, and you can say, I want to stop here and I want to stop here instead, and you can sort of figure out which option is the best for you. Maybe you don't want that first leg of the trip to be 2 hours and 28 minutes. Maybe you only want to go an hour and a half or something like that. So you can look around and see if there's a supercharger that's an hour and a half away instead of 2.5 hours away. And so you can adjust things on a better route planner that you can't do with Tesla's regular mapping system. So what's the problem with a better route planner? The biggest problem is it's just not integrated as well into Tesla's system, right? So if I'm going on any short road trip, I just use Tesla's system, no problem, right? If it's just 1 or 2 charging stops, I don't care that much. It's going to work out pretty well. But looking at something that's like 18 hours versus 17 hours for a road trip, it actually really does make a difference. So in this case, what I would do for a long road trip like this, that's almost 1,000 miles, is I would use Google Maps ahead of time. I would look up what the best superchargers were. I've become really, really addicted to 250 kilowatt superchargers. They may not be ones along the way, right? This route doesn't have that many superchargers on it, and a lot of them are older. But anyway, if I can find them, I will substitute a 250 kilowatt charger because it's going to be faster. So I'll look on the Google Maps and try to figure out the best superchargers, the ones that have the best food options, all of that kind of stuff. And then for the actual trip, I'll use a better route planner and I'll plan it out on a better route planner. Again, I may adjust some of the supercharging stops and things like that to make it happy for me. And then I will just feed that information through the Bluetooth speakers into the Tesla system. Now, what I will do with Tesla while I'm doing this is when I know I'm like an hour away from like the Oxford, Alabama supercharger stop, so that Tesla knows that a supercharger is coming up and it will start to charge, is I will put that in as a destination. And then what it'll do is it'll precondition the battery so that the battery is at a good temperature for charging exactly when we arrive at that supercharger. But then I will depend on a better route planner to figure out how long I need to stay at that particular stop. So yeah, as with many things in life, there is no completely cut and dry, easy solution. Like I said, for anything that's relatively short, I will just go ahead and use the Tesla Maps system. It works great. It works great for long road trips too. It just can take longer, right? So you can end up sacrificing 45 or 50 minutes on an 18-hour trip to use the simplicity of Tesla Maps system that just works. You don't have to think about it. Again, it's kind of Appleified, right? You know, it's that thing where it's like Apple just works, but if you want to get in and start messing around with the substrate of what's going on, it's very difficult to do that with Apple. So it's just like that with Tesla. They just give you the answer and it works, and you drive and you do the thing and you don't have to think about it. But if you do want to try to shave some time, and especially if you want to look at superchargers that are not on Tesla's pre-planned route, then what you should do is look at Google Maps before you leave to figure out which superchargers are the ones, you know, that get the thumbs up. You can just look at the star ratings, but you can also look at the restaurants and things like that. And by the way, Tesla's Maps also will do this. When it pops up the supercharger, you can click on that and it will pop up a thing that will tell you the restaurants, how far away they are, how many superchargers there are, what the kilowatt rating is for the supercharger, how many stalls there are, how many free stalls there are. So it is really, really useful to use that, but I would use a better route planner for a long trip like this. Now, as it turns out, I actually have to be flying because of extremely tight time constraints, and this is basically a 2-day trip. So, you know, boo-hoo, I wish I could be doing a road trip in my Tesla, but instead we will be flying into Austin. And while I'm recording this the day before, this is actually going to come out while we are in the air to Austin, Texas. So for any of you out there who are going to Texas, I will see you then. Still don't have a Cyber Rodeo ticket, which is super sad, but I'm going to very much enjoy being in Austin and seeing all of the Teslas and all of the cool people who are out there. So please do look me up if you're out there. Hit me up on Twitter or something like that and let me know where you are. My Patreon patrons and I on Wednesday, which will actually be today when this video is released, are having a little pre-get together at 3 o'clock. And I'm super, super happy about that. And if you want to join the Patreon team last minute and join us for that little get together, check out the link in the description and join us. In the meantime, I hope you found this episode fun and informative. If you did, definitely give it a thumbs up because that's how YouTube knows to show it to other people. And I think this is actually a fairly useful video for people to know about. And of course, consider subscribing for more of this kind of content. And if you're interested in a whole bunch of really cool merch, check out our merch store. Link is in the description. We have TeslaBot t-shirts, the Tesla meme t-shirt, Success is a Possible Outcome, 4680 battery cells. All of that stuff is on t-shirts, mugs, tumblers, and on. So check it out. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next one and hopefully see you in Austin. Bye-bye.